It's your Wednesday daily delivery. I am Michael Rand. Glad to be back for another day. Hope everyone is doing well out there. Good show coming up. Velle E. Neal III from the Star Tribune joins me here in just a few minutes to talk bunch of stuff, a little bit of wild talk, U.S. soccer talk, a little bit of Loons talk, Twins talk. Should they trade Max Kepler? Things like that. Even a little bit of Wolves thrown in the mix, too. So lots to get to with Velle in just a few minutes here. Got a little bit of a NFL mock draft rant at the end of the show. Something caught my eye yesterday, and I can't shake it. It's bothering me, so I'm gonna work through it. I'm gonna talk through my feelings on this show. Kyle Anderson thought he's going to the Warriors in a minute here. First, though, what I miss: Twins win 5-3 against the Tigers. That's good if you're a Minnesota Twins fan, which most of you are. Bad news is that Royce Lewis, stop me if you've heard this and you've had to hear it way too many times, had to leave the game with an injury. Left groin tightness. That doesn't sound pleasant. Had to leave the game because of left groin tightness. Was not terribly confident after the game. Royce Lewis is about as optimistic a person as you will find, probably about 100 times more optimistic than anybody you will find in the media. He said this after the game, after he had to leave with yet another injury, said, "Probably not very optimistic, to be honest with you. I'm praying, but it's usually always horrible news, so we'll see." That sounds, unfortunately, like a guy who has been beaten down by all of these injuries. Let's take a brief look back at all of the injuries he's had, all the time he's had to miss, because it is daunting. It is daunting to look at. This is a guy who still, for how great he has been already in his short career, number one overall pick in 2017, still only 24 years old, be 25 here in not too long, I believe. Actually, he's 25 now. He just turned 25 in June. For all of what he's done already, he only has in his major league regular season career 344 at-bats. 344 at-bats in his entire major league career. 377 plate appearances in his major league career. It feels like a lot more because he's been here for a while now. He made his debut in 2022. He's had so many big moments already, but they have been constantly interrupted by injuries. So here's just a quick look at what's happened. These are all in the last 3.5 years. So February of 2021, tears his ACL for the first time. It was an off-season injury, kind of a freak thing, slips, something happens to his ACL. He is lost for the year, has to go into rehab. And mind you, this was after his entire 2020 minor league season is wiped out because of the pandemic. Remember, the minor leagues did not play a season that year. They trained. I'm sure they saw some live pitching, but nothing replicating what you would normally get out of a 100-plus games in a minor league season and things like that. So that is wiped out for him in 2019. Then in 2020, doesn't get to play in 2021 because of the torn ACL. Rehabs it, comes back, gets up to the Twins in 2022, despite all he's had to overcome, despite the injury, despite not having a minor league season in 2020. Gets to the Twins in 2022. They play him in center field. He tears his ACL again. Same one, a little over a year later, tears his ACL again. He's out for another year, essentially. Gets back June or so of 2023, makes his debut. He's tearing the cover off the ball, having a great time. And then July 2023 rolls around, oblique strain, misses 36 games, I think, misses that time in the middle of last season, comes back, helps them again. Then he has to go on the injured list again with that hamstring strain that we were worried was going to keep him out of the playoffs. Does get back into the postseason, has the postseason heroics, can only really DH, though, in the postseason, but does carry the offense, carries the Twins, homers in his first 2 playoff at-bats, helps them win a playoff game and a playoff series for the first time in about 1,000 years. So he's got that going for him, which is nice. This year, everyone's got the positive vibes. Royce Lewis, breakout season. third inning of the first game. Quad strain, out 2 months after he had homered and had another hit in that game. So he was batting 1,000 for about 2 months, but not the way the Twins wanted him to. Comes back, he's crushing again, and now this groin strain. Now the question you have to ask at this point is it bad luck? Is it injury prone? I don't know. It's been a lot of different things, but it's ligaments, it's muscles, it's soft tissue, it's this and that. It's not broken bones at the very least, but at least those feel a little bit less. Actually, if it was a broken bone, you might say, okay, that's a little bit more of bad luck. What is this with Royce Lewis? What do we make of the fact that he can't seem to stay on the field? That's been all of these other different kind of soft tissue kind of things, ligaments, strained muscles, things like that. I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. I just hate it for the Twins. I hate it for Twins fans. I hate it especially for Royce Lewis. Twins are really hitting their stride right now. 48-37 after that win over Detroit. The offense doing its thing. They survived that 2 months without Royce Lewis earlier in the season, but I don't love their chances of thriving without him. They can survive without him for a little while here. We'll see what the results of the MRI or whatever testing they're going to do today. They can survive for a while without him. And a groin strain probably isn't the end of the world, but we will see. I don't think the Twins, I don't know if the Twins are terribly optimistic either, but they have to keep plugging away. They would love to see a stretch of a whole season where they get Royce Lewis, or even half of a season. They haven't even had that. He's got, 370-some plate appearances in his career. That's like half as many as Chris Parmalee. I was just looking up who's like random Twins. Chris Parmalee had like 900 plate appearances in his Twins career. He's got more than twice as many plate appearances as Royce Lewis in his Twins career. That's how infrequently Royce Lewis has been able to be on the field in his young, short career so far. So they would love to get him on the field some more. We will see if they are able to do that anytime soon. Like I said at the jump, Kyle Anderson, the man they call Slow-Mo. Royce hates that nickname, by the way, so we're getting rid of that. He is headed to Golden State, 3 years, $27 million. Probably too much for the Wolves at this point, given their luxury tax constraints. You could see the writing on the wall once they went all in the draft, added Rob Dillingham at the number 8 pick, which adds some salary this season. They had another first-round pick, Terrence Shannon Jr. He's adding to the payroll as well. That was the direction they decided to go. They're going to play faster. They just are going to play faster with the roster they have right now, especially, I would think, that second unit. If you're adding Shannon, Dillingham to the second unit, or subtracting the man they call Slow-Mo, Kyle Anderson, you got to think this is a stylistic change. Anderson did some good things here, especially 2 years ago, really carried that power forward position when Cat was out for so long. Didn't shoot as well last year. Seemed like he was reluctant to shoot. 3-point percentage dipped from 41 to 23%. So this is just interesting. It feels like it's a stylistic change. Wolves getting younger, getting faster, kind of maybe moving towards a slightly different style of play. They will not have Kyle Anderson's steadying influence, his ball handling ability, things like that. But they will have a faster team. They will have a team capable of playing more up-tempo. They've got enough ball handling, I think, at this point with the addition of Dillingham, and I think Shannon can handle the ball too. So it's going to be a different look, especially when they go to those reserves next season. I'm interested to see how it looks, wondering how much they will eventually miss Kyle Anderson. But I like this for Kyle. I like him playing on the Warriors with Steph Curry. I think they are two high basketball IQ guys. You can throw him in with Draymond Green, who for all of his faults is an exceptionally smart on the court player when he can kind of keep his emotions in check. You put those three guys on the court at the same time, spread the floor with some other guys too. That could be a pretty good look for them. So a good fit. Just the time had come for him in Minnesota. We will see how it goes. But the Wolves definitely going up-tempo now that they don't have Slow-Mo.
I'm Nyla Jean Myers, Senior Assistant Sports Editor at the Star Tribune. Thank you for listening to Strip Sports Daily Delivery. This work is made possible by our Star Tribune subscribers. For unlimited access to the articles mentioned in this podcast and our coverage of Minnesota sports from pros to preps, go to startribune.com/subscribe.
Happy to be joined today by Star Tribune columnist Velle E. Neal III. I want to engage you on a number of things, Velle. First off, how are you?
I'm doing great. Appreciate you having me on.
appreciate you coming on the show. Bunch of things, like I said, but we got to start with U.S. soccer. That is one of the big kind of national talkers right now. I watched a good deal of the Panama game that turned into a 2-1 debacle, the red card, the inability to hold the 1-0 lead. Watched almost all of the Uruguay match on Monday night that finished off their chances in Copa America. These problems run deeper than just a couple games, but a lot of national chatter right now about the future direction of this program. What do you see right now?
Yeah, I mean, I started following this team like the '94 World Cup when it was here in the United
Right.
States. Was kind of hatched my interest in the game because I saw all these great players and wondered, what are they doing when they're not playing in World Cup? So that kind of got me involved in English soccer. And at the time, I think we only had two or three guys like playing in Europe. I think Kobe Jones was at Coventry. John Harkes was playing Nottingham Forest, I want to say. Eric Ronaldo was actually in Germany, FC Saarbrücken. He had a few guys. But now we've got American players who are regulars for their teams in Europe. They have played in Champions League games. They're playing for they've played for the most storied teams in Europe: Borussia Dortmund, Chelsea, Juventus,
Yeah.
Barcelona. And it seems like the level of talent has increased exponentially since 1994, but it's not translating to the team. And goal scoring has always been an issue, it seems like. It looks like Florian Balogun is like the closest thing we have to someone you can rely on, but we have not been able to develop a striker. Defensively, I think we have taken a step back. I think Matt Turner is probably no better than Tony Meola back 20, 30 years ago. I just don't think with this talent level and with the players they have, there should be more productivity. We should be crushing in CONCACAF. Mexico's on the downslide. Canada's gotten better, but we shouldn't have problems when we play at Trinidad and Tobago or play against the Panama. We should be crushing those teams, and we're not. Yes, following a man down is an issue like they did against Panama. But you know what? You've got to get a result. You got to be able to circle the wagons and make adjustments and come up with a positive result. And they failed to do that. The other issue, too, is that Timmy Weah, who's a nice guy, apparently, lost his mind for a second and whacks a player and gets red carded. Now, I would say that was just kind of an unfortunate thing, but Sergino Dest got ejected from the game, too, for kicking the ball in anger. So what's with the comportment here on this team? And is that a reflection of how they're being coached? Is that a reflection on the manager? So personally, I want to see a change. And I hate saying this, but going into the tournament, part of me hoped that the United States would not get out of group stage so they can make a move at the top. I thought it was crazy they brought Berhalter back. It was a great opportunity for them to go find someone with a pedigree who has a history on the international level and try to move the program forward that way. But they brought back Berhalter, and I don't see anything different. And I don't see anybody getting better. I think Gio Reyna being more incorporated into the team is a plus, but I need to see more. And it's not there. I wish we had a box-to-box midfielder. I don't think we have that, although Lester McKinney should be that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's some things here that I'm ready for a change. This was a big stage. You're at home in this tournament with your best collection of players ever. You can't get out of group stage. There has to be consequences for that. So let's reset the button here and get ready for the 2026 World Cup when it's back in the United States.
Well, and that's the big thing, right? I mean, obviously, any World Cup cycle is important for a national team, but when you are the host, like they haven't hosted a men's World Cup in, this will be 32 years. We're going on 30 years since they hosted 94. 2026 is an opportunity with the team they have to put your best foot forward, to be that team, to be, to be someone who's taken seriously on an international stage. You cannot fall flat in that tournament. You can't just stay status quo. I think it's inevitable. I think it's kind of a no-brainer that Berhalter will be gone. The question is, where do they go from here? Who do they bring in that can get them not just better results, but can grow this thing to the point where you think, okay, this isn't just, hey, be nice to get through the group stage of the World Cup, be nice to compete against their peers, but actually be a contender. How do you get there?
Well, my pie in the sky would be to bring in someone like Jurgen Klopp, but he has no experience with international football, so I'm a little worried about that. I'm not big on Mauricio Pochettino because it seems like he's a little high maintenance. Giovanni is his last coach, Massimiliano Allegri. I wouldn't mind him. And Terzic, who was at Borussia Dortmund, I wouldn't mind him either. There's a lot of national guys with incredible guys they could look to bring in here. Luis Felipe Scolari, he's still coaching, and he's got World Cup winning experience. There's people out there that they could bring in and take this thing to the next level. So, I'm not against American coach, but the guy I liked is now coaching the Canadian team, who's formerly coaching Leeds, Jesse March.
Yeah.
So I don't know who other American coach would be a good candidate. Peter Vermes, I don't know. So this is a great opportunity because the players that the United States have now, they're playing in Europe. These coaches know these guys now. They can come in and hit the ground running with these guys and instill a new formation or instill a new mentality or a new way about going a new way to go about their business, man. So I'm embracing change here.
Yes,
so
I think a lot of people are.
Berhalter has had a long run to get this thing right, and it's time to look at someone else.
Related question. We got a bunch of things I want to get to, but kind of related to this international cycle we're in with, Euros and also, of course, the Copa America. What do we make of the Loons right now? And they've had injuries. They've got guys missing. They've sent out a couple guys on transfer. They've got no depth. How much of their struggles lately is just that, and they'll be fine once they get all their players back? And how much of it is, hey, what we saw at the start of the year was a little bit of a mirage to you?
Well, I mean, they got to take some blame here. Yeah, I mean, there's been injuries, no doubt. They take some blame because it's the players they brought in have not done the job. I mean, they just sent Eriksson back to Scandinavia after him being an abomination. Now, I feel bad for the Honduran defender. I can't remember his name right now. I apologize. He was a success story with them, taking his game to the next level. But apparently he made let it be known that he intended to run down his contract and leave. So the Loons felt they needed to move him now to get something in return for him. So, I mean, that's an unfortunate thing. But it's left the cupboard bare. The new players they brought in have not been that great. They've had a boatload of injuries. I've never seen this, the amount of players they had to call up from their B squad.
Reserve team.
Yeah, the reserve team to come in and fill out a roster, as a result, you don't see the firepower. They've competed in games, and they've been rarely blown out or blown off the pitch. But it's a combination of bad luck, but some of this is self-inflicted by the personnel decisions during the offseason.
Well, they were such a charming little story for a while. We were like, man, Ramsey can sure coach, pushing all the right buttons, doing it all without any contributions from Reynoso, which that saga is over. But now you're right, the depth just isn't there, and it's strange. MLS is always going to run into this problem where their season, they got these international breaks where they're just going to lose guys in the middle of the year. But you're right, to not have enough depth there, and maybe this is just a 1-year problem. Maybe this is, they're going to get this fixed and figured out. But it's hard to see something like that get derailed so easily just by not having a few of your key guys.
Yeah, and I wonder if this is what happens when your new leader El Ahmad wasn't able to join the club,
right?
Until at the end of Barnsley season. Is that the offshoot of that, and the head coaching search?
And the head coach isn't even there until like the fourth match of the year. It was none of that mattered for a while they were winning. It feels like it matters more now, doesn't it?
I just feel like they're going to put an asterisk next to the 2024 season.
They're going to try. It's year zero. Year
zero. Because all the stuff that wouldn't happen, how they acquired players, the leader, the search for a new leader, the search for a head coach. It just seemed like they were starting 2 steps behind every other franchise in the league at the beginning of the year. And I think that's one of the reasons why they're at where they're at right now. Let's see what happens once the international windows are the Euro 2024 and the Copa America are over. Let's see how things are when the players are back from those tournaments and rosters are full again. So this also leads to the argument that MLS should just join the rest of the world and
Yes.
play in the winter months,
Yeah.
which I I don't know. Coming to Minnesota in
Well,
January, oof, that's
they
I think that's asking a lot here.
it is, but they pretty much play all the months anyway. Jeez, I mean, their season is like a million years long. It wouldn't. I mean, I don't know. It makes sense from a certain standpoint here, just because you don't have to battle a lot of those other leagues for eyeballs. It does make a certain amount of sense, but you're always going to have this problem because nobody's going to adjust for MLS. You're not going to change the international
No,
schedule for MLS. That's obviously not going to happen.
not happening. I don't know if they did go to a fall, winter, spring schedule. Could they have the northern teams just play on a road in the southern half of the country for the first
I
several
don't know.
weeks? I mean, I've been screaming for that for baseball for years,
Yeah.
and they've failed. They failed to do it consistently. Getting the Twins in Cleveland, Chicago south to start the season,
Yeah.
they're unable to do that. So I don't know if it's able to be done in MLS if they decide to flip the calendar to later in the year.
I know you talked to Wild general manager Bill Guerin a couple weeks ago before the draft, before free agency started. I think everybody's pretty excited about their first round pick. My question for you, Lavelle, is they were pretty for them. A lot of these guys are two-way contracts, so there's a lot of names, but maybe not a lot of substance. But they did on the first day of free agency Monday sign Yakov Trenin, 4 years, 14 million. Guy who's good on the penalty kill, guy who's going to give some credibility to probably that middle six forward group. Does that move the needle for you at all? Where does that put you in terms of how you're thinking about this team?
Well, talking to Billy, he pointed out one thing he wanted to get bigger. You
Yep.
know, I asked him about second line scoring, which I still think they need to address. But
Yes.
he's banking on Gaudreau, Hartman, and Johansson improving. I'm like, man, we've seen these guys now for the last couple of years. If
Yeah.
they're not going to get it done, and trust me, if Dean Evison gets hired anywhere, Gaudreau's going to want to go play for Dean because they're tight,
Yes.
they're dogs. So I like to see some form of second line scoring because I like seeing Boldy, Eriksson, and Kaprizov on that top line. We got to round out the middle six here and make them stronger. The new guy brings size. They needed to get bigger. And he made a big deal about getting back to their identity, being a tough team to play, being physical, hard nosed. He wants to get back to that identity, which he thinks they lost along the way last year. It'll also help if I can't remember what the record was, but they had a horrible start to the season last year, and they were pretty much out of it by December. I can't remember how exactly the record they had, but that would help too if they want to turn things around. But he's done almost as much as possible. Personally, actually, I might write this for Sunday. I'm surprised that Gus Bus is still here.
Me
I would
too.
have moved him. I would have gotten that $3 million off the books, and you would have some flexibility to do some other things. The rumor about trading for Patrick Lane, the line, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Apparently, there's some fire there with that smoke. Um, I I know that guy could score. I've seen him torment the Wild when he was with Winnipeg.
Yeah.
He's still in the player assistance program, which is kind of a concern. He also has not stayed on the ice a lot the last 2 or 3 years. That's a concern. But man, when he's on the ice, he's a scorer.
Right.
He is a scorer. But he's looking for change of scenery. Could the Twins? Could the Wild flip? Could the Wild flip Gus Bus for Lane? I don't know. That's something to watch here. But I'm just surprised. I think considering they still need one more year before they're out of cap misery.
Right.
And they're signing guys as short-term contracts, except for Maxim, bridge contracts that a lot of stuff's going to be coming off the books. They're going to be potential. They're going to be positioned to pounce next offseason. And I want to see Jesper Wallstedt in a backup role this year so he can get some more experience so he can hit the ground running next year. So trade Gus Bus and let's keep this thing going here.
They don't seem to ever want to fully rebuild, but it wouldn't be so bad if they were not so great this year. As long as you got to look at some of the new guys. And by the way, the only reason he is banking on, as you say, Gaudreau, Hartman, Johansson, the guys we already know, is because he's not banking anywhere with money. He doesn't have money. They don't have money to buy anybody else right now. They have 5 really good forwards if everybody is healthy. they know they don't have a sixth. Even Hines said it the other day. He was like, seems like we've got our top five, and then we're cycling someone through. Then you give guys opportunities. If you're just giving guys opportunities, you don't have enough top six forwards. You have five, and that's assuming everybody is healthy at once, which is very rarely the case.
Correct. Especially in that sport because you're getting a lower upper body injury like every other week. So,
Yes,
but yeah, I agree. Everything you just laid out says a trade for Lane should be the way to go. But I don't know. I haven't looked at their cap situation now that they signed the kid yesterday.
well, they've got about $3 million in space right now.
So Gus would give them about six, and
Yeah.
they could squeeze Lane under there.
Yeah,
Could they still sign their draft picks? I mean, I was talking to someone. Someone told me like there's a team. Was it Colorado? Someone's like only $600,000 under the cap. I was like, how the hell do you sign your picks?
well, the Wild last year were like $12 under the cap. They had to like keep shuffling guys up and down in the minors because they didn't want them on the roster for an extra day, counting, an extra $22 on the cap. They were so close to the cap last year.
Yeah, Billy told me too. He wants to fortify Iowa. He wants better players there, and I don't know if that means he has to.
What does that mean? More depth so they can call up. Who cares how good Iowa is?
That's what he wants. He wants to have guys come up who can step in if guys are injured.
Okay, well that makes sense. I don't care if Iowa's any good, but having depth is fine.
One way he could do that, though, I think he could sign a couple veteran type guys and who kind of like tweeners and carry them through camp and wait till the end of camp, see if they can sneak them through waivers and get them down to Iowa that way. So,
okay. Well, we'll see.
That may be his approach.
Trennan's a guy that's going to help. He doesn't move the needle for me. He's a guy who will make them better on the penalty kill, obviously, and that's a huge area of weakness. But they don't have the money right now to make the moves that are going to move the needle, and I think they know that, and they're just trying to get by this year with as much kind of win with grit. I don't think that's exactly how they want to win forever, but that's how it's easier to win that way if you don't have skill.
Right. And all you Wild fans out there keep chirping at me about, well, once the money goes off the books, they got to extend Kaprizov and they got to lock up Faber, and that's going to take up all the money. That's not true. I talked to Billy about that subject directly. He said, oh, no, we'll have some flexibility to add some other guys here. Yes. That's not going to be a problem.
Because other guys come off the books at the same time, and Kaprizov's already making $9 million. I mean, it's not like his extension is going to be that much more than that. So yeah, they'll be okay. They'll have some money to spend, even if it's not everything. Couple more subjects for you, Lavelle. Number one, I want to know what you think of this. Timberwolves made a splash on draft night, obviously, trading their 2031 first round pick to the Spurs to move up to number 8, taking Rob Dillingham, a guard who should help them right away. Got Terrence Shannon at 27, a guy you're very familiar with from Illinois. Yep. Is there going to be a bigger move this offseason than what we saw from them on draft night?
Well, it's kind of like the Wild situation. I don't know how much more the Wolves are willing to pay in luxury tax hits because apparently they're into the dreaded second apron.
Second apron, yes.
Yeah, so
we got to get a better word. We got to get a better term for that, by the way. I don't like second apron's it sounds so technical.
You're right. I don't know what you want to call it. There's in the red and there's in the purple. I don't know, something like that.
In the purple. There you go. Yeah.
They're in the purple now. But I think Terrence Shannon is going to come in and I don't know if he's going to break into the main rotation, but I think he's going to contribute as a rookie. I think he's in a better position to contribute than Dillingham. And that's no knock on Dillingham. He's 19.
Yeah,
so he's got plenty of upside.
And he's small too.
Shannon could play 3 different positions. Right. I mean, he can come up and initiate the offense. Is he a point guard? No, but he can initiate if he has to. Yeah. But he can play shooting guard. He can play small forward. He likes playing defense. If you look at his highlight films, lots of steals. And I love how he attacks the basket, and I love how he finishes. That's doors of his strengths. So I think he could fit in I think he can adapt to what the Wolves stand for in terms of defensive discipline. And that would keep him on the floor, and he'll provide some scoring, which they're looking for. But to be honest with you, I hope Alexander Walker is working on his 3-pointer this offseason, and I hope McDaniels is trying to take his offense to another level to go with his great defense.
Yeah, and the only way this would be a bigger move, I would think, is if they A, convince someone to come here on the cheap who's really good, or B, it'd be a trade. It would have to be a trade. And I don't think they're going to do that. Royce keeps saying, don't believe that they're not trying to move Cat. I don't think it's anything that he's reported. I think it's just his sense of, don't trust these guys because whatever they say isn't going to be necessarily what they do, but just doesn't quite feel to me like this is the offseason that they're going to make that kind of move.
Yeah, and Oklahoma City's trying to fortify their roster. Some teams in the West are trying to get better. It's gonna be a bloodbath, I think, next year in the league. So, um, Conley's got his work cut out for him. I approve of what he did during draft day. I'm curious to see how he feels about the rest of his roster.
Couple more things. Like I said, one, you're writing about this, I think, for Wednesday's paper. Max Kepler would be an interesting trade possibility. The Twins don't, if they don't want to dig into their minor league roster for any pitching upgrades, was as the deadline gets closer this month, if they don't want to do that, he is someone on the major league roster. He's expiring contract, things like that. What do you think? What would you do if you were them with Max Kepler?
If everything was, well, I would trade him. Okay.
Okay.
Under normal circumstances, I would move Kepler and get what I can for him. Teams have always, opponents have admired Kepler's defense, and, he can provide a little offense as well. And he can get hot. He can have a hot month and damn near carry a team as well. Under normal circumstances, I would do that. I'm a little apprehensive right now because their other left-handed hitters have been horrible this year, and they have let the franchise down. And they need left-handed hitting really bad. You look at their numbers versus right-handed pitchers and left-handed pitchers; they're struggling. So that's Julian, Kirilloff, and Wallner. Those three guys, who all contribute. Two of those three definitely contributed last year. They all played themselves down to St. Paul this year, and it's disappointing. I don't know if Julian's gotten on track yet. Wallner showed some flashes. I saw him play in person about a week and a half ago. Although he struck out 3 times and had a bloop single that drove in 2 runs, so it wasn't really that impressive. And Kirilloff is injured with this mysterious injury that no one knew about until they tried to send him down. I was talking to someone 3 weeks ago about Kirilloff, and they're like, "We're baffled." He says he's healthy. His wrist doesn't bother him. His shoulder doesn't bother him. We don't know why he's not hitting. He's not making adjustments at the plate. What's going on? Well, they said, all right, he's hitting around 200 now. Let's send him down. And then once they sent him down, they found out he's injured. That's not a good look right there.
No.
So I don't know. I mean, I would look to see what I can get for Kepler, but these three guys at St. Paul need to start hitting so they can balance out this lineup.
Well, Wallner's been better lately. I was looking at his numbers. He's up to 19 homers down in St. Paul, OPS of 869. So he's been on a tear, but the thing is, can you trust that? Do you believe that he's going to carry that over into the last 2-3 months of a major league season? Or are you worried that this is, that Wallner's going to do this sometimes, but then he can also turn around and have a week where he strikes out 70% of the time and you just can't have him in your lineup? Like, what you're getting from Kepler. Are you better off trading him, or is the best spot for Max Kepler over the next 3 months with the Twins? Then you just deal with whatever happens in the offseason.
I know, and here's the other thing too: is Trevor Larnach ready to be an everyday outfielder?
Yeah, that's true.
Could that help? Because he's better than he was a year ago, and he's making adjustments at the plate. He's showing that ability. And Wallner, you pointed out Wallner's numbers. He's also on the Byron Buxton plan. Less is more. So he's backing off as much of work on his swing as he usually has done. Instead of spending an hour in the cage, he's spending like 15, 20 minutes. And I guess he's seeing benefits from that. But the way he bats with that long stride and his first move is to go from the outside of the box toward the plate, he gets locked up sometimes with inside pitches. And I think pitchers are going to go right back to that, trying to exploit that once he gets back to the majors. If he has found a way to counteract that, then he could stick and he could thrive. But I'm just hoping, he's a local kid. I'm just hoping he doesn't become another Joey Gallo. I want him to be more. Oof. I want him to have that same power, but I want him to make better contact.
I mean, I think they'd take 5 years of Joey Gallo's prime, but yeah, you're right. In terms of just the all or nothing nature of his swing, you want a little bit more than that. Lavelle, I like it. I like all the insights. Appreciate your time. Go read Lavelle's column on the Twins Wednesday, maybe on the Wild Sunday. We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
Hey, thanks for having me, man.
Good stuff from Lavelle. Like we talked about, you can read his Max Kepler column online or in your print edition of the Star Tribune. Thinks it's time for the Twins to move on from Kepler. I wonder if the Royce Lewis injury influences that at all. One more bat subtracted from the lineup. We'll see how serious that is. We'll see what the Twins do, too. Could be time for a Brooks Lee call-up if, indeed, this is a more serious injury to Royce Lewis. Let's finish with the cooler. Like I said at the beginning, got a little bit of a mock draft rant. Now, I've got no real beef with the idea of these kind of way too early mock drafts, right? Like we're, 10 months, almost 10 months away from the NFL draft, the 2025 NFL draft. But this headline on an ESPN video caught my eye the other day, and I was like, can we just back up just a little bit? Headline is this: why Giants fans should be excited about the prospect of landing QB Carson Beck. It's early July of 2024. We don't know how the Giants are going to finish this season. We don't know if Carson Beck is going to have a good year for Georgia. We don't know anything about anything. We don't know if the Giants are going to be in the market for a quarterback. They might have a good year. Daniel Jones might play well. Who knows? It's fine to rank these prospects, try to sort the prospects out, but to have a headline, why Giants fans should be excited about the prospect of landing QB Carson Beck, and this is playing off of their mock draft that suggests the Giants will trade up. We're making a mock trade before anybody has a win or a loss. They'll trade up with New England to get the number 1 pick to land Carson Beck, the theoretical number 1 overall pick. It's just we're playing too far into the future. We're playing too many hypotheticals. I get that people love that. I get that the fans, they love the possibility. They love what might happen. Some of them might just rather speed through this season and say, okay, get to the off season again. I want to see what we get. I want to see how we might get better. The seduction of it is undeniable because the possibilities, because there are no true wins and losses. You can kind of move the pieces around. You can kind of figure out how your team might do as opposed to the cold reality of starting 1-4, how your team really is, things like that. I get it, but man, why they should be excited about the possibility of landing Carson Beck 10 months before the draft, 2 months before the start of the regular season that will determine your draft order, will determine if you even need a quarterback. That to me is a little bit too far. That to me is frankly absurd, and I don't like it. I don't like it at all. That will do it for me today. No show tomorrow, 4th of July, Friday. Be back with the show. Chuck Ioki, U.S. Paralympic athlete from Minneapolis, will join me. Paralympics start in a couple of months here. Had a chance to chat with Chuck this week. Really good conversation just about his journey. Also a little bit of Minnesota sports talk. He is a huge Minnesota sports fan, loves the Vikings, living out near Ann Arbor, and has been scouting J.J. McCarthy this year. So we'll have a little bit of his takes on J.J. McCarthy and the Vikings, get into a little bit of that, but mostly just some really good conversations about his journey and the Paralympics coming up here later this summer. Until then, have a great holiday. Back at it again on Friday.